What's up, guys? Welcome to Couple Podcast with your hosts, Matt Sartrek and myself, Peter Fendera. This is a podcast where we tackle current health news and hot nursing topics, one conversation at a time. How's it going, Matthew?
I'm feeling good, man. I went jet skiing today.
Oh, yeah, I've never been jet skiing. How was jet skiing?
Very fun. So today the wind was actually going towards
Was it going eastbound?
west. It was
West.
going west.
Okay.
So it was going towards the beach. So when you're flying back on these jet skis going 40, 30 miles per hour, you're literally riding that wave and just like going down, splashing.
Did
It
you
was
go
a whole
like
thing, man.
Did you like go like against the waves, or is that dangerous to do?
Yes. You make a couple nice spins. I don't want to mention donuts because last time we were doing donuts, we flipped the damn
Man.
UTV. But do some donuts, make it wavy, and then you just ride them. Fun activity. I recommend it.
It's like surfing. Have you when you were in California? Did you go surfing?
No, so instead I decided to try Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's what I've done. When we go there, we're for sure got to try some BJJ as well,
Okay.
but also surf because surfing is one of those bucket list things I would love to accomplish.
For sure. I never went surfing either, but when we were in Florida with my buddy Conrad, like, people weren't really, I mean, they were surfing a little bit, but that location we were at was not meant for, like, surfing, I think. I mean, I'm no expert. I haven't been surfing for my life, but the waves weren't that big. People came with their surfboards. So I'm guessing sometimes that the waves are good, but they were just chilling for the most part.
Yeah, so Huntington Beach and all around that coast is, known for surfing. So I think it might be West Coast things. Not too sure, what Florida's about.
What do I find out? I'll let you guys know. I'm sure there's for sure, like, don't all, like, the surfers come from the West Coast? Like, Hawaii would have been probably insane.
It would be.
Yeah. Well, Matt, what you got in store for us today?
Today we're going to talk about Whoop. But before we talk about Whoop, let's just give a shout out to all the listeners. Thank you guys for listening. Those returning, keep shouting us out. Keep giving us reviews, and sharing. Like, we appreciate everything. And those that are new, welcome. You guys are going to have an awesome time. Peter's feeling extra goofy today. Look at his hair, man. Wavy like usual. Like these damn winds I was riding to on the jet skis.
I think it's like humidity, man. I think it's humidity that gets it.
Yeah.
I feel like I could pull off a headband if I really wanted to. Those thin headbands.
All the girl listeners.
Griezmann
Yes.
from, now he plays for Barcelona, right? Yeah. You used to that headband back in the day. I'm not sure what kind of haircut he's rocking right now. But it's definitely humidity. When it's humid outside, my hair, turns super curly and wavy.
If there's girls that are listening and have a recommendation for Peter's curly hair to be controlled in humidity, please send a DM to the Couple Nurses on IG.
Yeah, you could, but I probably won't look at it. I could care less, to be honest, And plus, this is like the length where it's like the awkward phase, where it's not like short and it's not long. It's like medium and plus it's wavy, so it's like even worse. But I don't know, dude. Every day something new. I look a little different each time, so they don't recognize me. Those facial recognition cameras, you're like, damn, this guy's always has a new haircut. He's so hard to catch.
Yeah. So if you go to China, bro, all the cameras are gonna be staring and tracking you down.
Yeah, dude. Did you see it like that I sent you?
What link?
You didn't look at it, huh?
Sometimes I look at it, man. I'm a busy man.
You didn't look at it.
I have
you
a
were
bad
nappies yesterday, dog.
I have a bad tendency of opening up a text and not responding sometimes and getting back to it.
Yeah, well, it's just a way, dude. So in China, they have these doors where it unlocks based on your face. So the computer knows who lives here, and it just opens up due to your face. It won't open up if it doesn't recognize your face.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's in government housing that they have that. It's wild, dude. And they want to have 800 million cameras by the year 2024.
That's one of China's goals.
Yeah, isn't that wild, dude? People get jaywalking tickets. That's how popular these cameras are.
Well, they have the social credit system.
That's insane, dude. Yeah, it's wild. But yeah.
Let's talk about China because we're going to get flagged one day.
Yeah, well, we'll mention one more thing. So, July 4th, another horrible day for Chicago, dude. 80 deaths. That's fucking wild, dude. We should do a podcast episode of our ideas on how to fix this ongoing issue in Chicago because it's bad. It's like the amount of drugs that are here and just the amount of people that are dying. I don't understand. Well, I kind of do understand because Chicago's in the middle between the east and west coast. So I understand why drugs come here, but it's fucking wild, dude. You just drive maybe because we live. I'm not gonna mention where we live, but you could drive 20 minutes from here and you could be in a bad part of town.
I know.
This area is very safe where we live because a bunch of cops, but it's just that close.
Usually you'll walk down the street sometimes and you could get checked, and what is considered checked is literally a gangbanger comes up to you and kind of asks you what part of town are you type of thing, it's crazy.
Yeah.
But enough of that.
Yeah. So today, guys, like Matt said, we are going to talk about the Whoop band. And Matt's been rocking a Whoop band a little bit longer than me. How long have you had the Whoop band on for?
Since January, so I'm 6 months in.
I have probably had mine late March, maybe mid-March, if that.
So you got 4 months. And Whoop is basically a way to understand yourself as an individual. It is considered the world's most powerful fitness membership, and it checks your sleep, recovery, and your strain. So it takes those three into consideration and measures your physiology, right?
Yeah.
So we got the sleep quality, duration, the consistency, and it's checking your load both internally and externally based on HRV.
That's your strain, yeah.
It checks your strain. I think it's a pretty damn cool app. I think I learned so much about myself, and that's what we're going to talk about on the podcast. And also, me and Peter don't believe what a website just tells us, so we actually did the research ourselves. We found some meta-analyses from 2018, and I think we have a lot of good information here that will kind of let you know that, hey, this is a product to kind of have if you want to really optimize yourself as a freaking human being. And on top of that, if you guys want to use our link, we do have a free month for you.
Yeah, so if you guys really want to, you can just try it out a month, and if you don't like it, you just get rid of it. But if you go on a website, there's a ton of information. They have their own blog. They have different areas of like explanation, like what does recovery actually mean, what actually gets tracked during sleep, or how do you actually measure recovery. But like going to a website, the Whoop boasts that you can increase your sleep and duration and quality. It could decrease your report levels of stress, balances your recovery and training, reduces alcohol consumption, which is, I feel like, more subjective than anything really. I don't think an app could or any kind of fitness tracker could decrease your alcohol consumption. I think it's more of you taking control. But this is used as like a reference. It'll help you increase in exercise intensity and duration, reduce screen time in bed. That's actually pretty interesting. I think it probably decreased my screen time in bed because I feel like I have to go to sleep earlier because I have to get a good recovery. And also minimizes the effects of travel, and they boast that it also improves in cardiovascular health. And it's all off the website, but it's pretty interesting. There's a lot of metrics on there. They give you like a weekly performance update. Same with the monthly one. The monthly one's more in depth than a weekly one. It's a day-by-day thing. You don't take it off. It's waterproof. I like it. I got paint on mine, and I think it actually looks cool because I have the basic black one. Matt's the basic black one, right?
Black one as well, and you're able to kind of pick out different colors and things like that. And you mentioned alcohol consumption, right? That you can minimize that and reduce it. So what this actually has, and I kind of use it as well, is a built-in journal, and you're able to pick different things for yourself to note take. So every day you wake up, you kind of process your sleep, and then you're able to answer questions on this mini journal that's built in. So you could do questions like, hey, did I feel a sense of purpose today? Or you could say caffeine, how much cups of coffee did I have? And you could do these different trackings. For example, one thing I'm excited about that I'm going to do because I've kind of talked about this podcast episode is cold showers. I want to get into them, for myself for health benefits, but also to see how my heart rate variability actually increased from just doing the cold therapy. So that's something I'm going to try out for the month of July.
So like an easy question, I'm sure you guys are thinking this in your head right now, is what is actually Whoop doing to give us these numbers, give us these outcomes? It actually tracks your heart rate variability. And they use that to measure your recovery, sleep, and strain. So a quick rundown of how it works is, so let's start it off in the morning. So you wake up in the morning, you see your number, and that's like the recovery, correct?
Right.
What you see in the morning, it gives you a number between 0 to 100%, depending on how well you slept. So sleep, what do they measure during sleep? So for sleep, they measure your duration, your quality, your respirations, how many hours you've actually slept compared to how many times how long you slept compared to your whole hours of sleep. So I would have slept 8 hours, but maybe it's actually 7 hours of sleep because I've woken up X amount of times, which took X amount of minutes.
Right.
Also measure disturbances, and with all these inputs, it comes up with a nice number for you, and it kind of gives you the quality of how you slept. It says 0 to 100, and based on that, it gives you recovery, and then with your recovery, it also tells you how much strength you should take on it for a day. So based on how your recovery was, how you slept, and things you did the day before, it tells you kind of how your body is geared to perform today. So let's say you got a nice 70% recovery, maybe it'll give you a 15 or a 13 for your strain. I think the highest strain you can take on is 20. I'm not
21,
mistaken.
yes.
21 is the highest. Yeah, so you get a number between 0 and 20, and that's kind of what you should aim for. Like, you know how your Apple Watch has those rings? Well, that's kind of similar to those rings. It's something that they should go for. That's like a goal for today is to hit 13 or 12. And also measure your strength. So not only does it set up this goal for you, you don't have to track it yourself. It tracks it for you. So it recommends a 15, but maybe you had a hard gym session, you went on 2 runs, and you went swimming. So maybe your recommended strength was 13, but hey, guess what? Your group is telling you trained 15.
Yep.
And that's going to also affect on how you sleep and how your recovery is for the next day. So it's like a whole cycle, and it's continuous, nonstop, 24/7. It's not heavy. It just takes a little bit of time to get used to because you got to wear it above your wrist.
And this is why it's considered like the most powerful tracker, right? Because just to give a comparison, I had a Fitbit before, right? And it's cool if you're like a beginner, sure, be happy to understand how many calories you burned, which this also does. And then, you could find out how many steps you walked. That's cool. But as an athlete, you want to find out, hey, if I slept 8 hours, but I couldn't sleep for an hour, that is sleep depth that gets added, right? And the sleep coach tells you based on your number, HRV, and everything, and the amount of strain you took, this is how much sleep you actually need to perform.
Yeah.
Or tomorrow is a day that I'm just going to get by, and that you could sleep less. So if you do Fitbit, cool, you'll know a little bit, but this is the next level, and this is Whoop, and you're tracking yourself as an athlete, literally.
Yeah, some of the nice functionalities is you could choose, so based on how your recovery is, you could choose a strain level that kind of fits you. There is a strain level or like a goal that you could have to just get by, like medium, and then one to really work you out. I'm not sure if you mess with that a little bit. You adjust that in your sleep, sleep section. So that's pretty cool. You kind of gear it more towards your athletic ability or more towards your goals. It also tracks everything. So it tracks where you run, the amount of running you do, and you could also track your workouts. So there's different like cycling, skating, surfing is all in there, and you select this, and you could either start it before you work out and stop it after you finish, or the cool thing about it is if you forget to set it, and you work out from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m., you can manually input those times, and it'll take the HRV from that hour, and it'll get your strain level for that. Or even it'll notice even sometimes when you're working out.
I think it's a pretty impressive device. And like the way it actually checks everything is like heart rate variability. That's like the biggest thing. So for a short, HRV is basically just your autonomic nervous system. And the autonomic nervous system is basically checking or doing everything for your body that you're not even aware of, right? Like you're not thinking about breathing right now or your heart is beating. It's that nervous system is just doing its, its job. And your heartbeat doesn't always beat like 1 second. Like there is, different consistency, correct? Sometimes.
Yeah, so when people say your heart beats 60 beats a minute, it doesn't mean it's beating 1 beat every second.
Yes.
Some beats could be 0.9, some beats can be 1.1, it varies.
And this is the connection between the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system. So most of this, and just like to kind of blow your minds really quick, and it blows my mind, is like, look at the nervous system, right? It's in charge of literally everything. And if you look at it and compare it to the tree of life, I think I saw a post like this, it literally looks like the roots of the human body. If you look, just type in a nervous system. It's a freaking pretty impressive thing.
It's wild.
And the main nerve that does all this is the vagus nerve. So I think that's cranial nerve 10, if I'm not mistaken.
Cranial nerves are the hardest for me to memorize, so I'm sure if online it says 10, I trust them.
Okay, so vagus nerve 10. And the vagus nerve is special because it's one of the longest nerves, and it's a very complex cranial nerve. It literally starts in the brain, runs through the face, through the freaking whole thorax, and down to the abdomen. So that nervous system is literally plugged into your heart, your liver, your stomach, your freaking large intestines, and everything. And that's why when you hear the whole, mind and gut connection, yeah, this shit's real because your nervous system is plugged into it. And if you have anxiety, yes, you might have bloating and gassiness and runs of diarrhea because that system is constantly talking without us realizing.
Exactly, and we mentioned the mind-gut, or not mind-gut, but we do mention the mind-gut connection a lot, but the mind-body connection. So what is a mind-body connection? That's ultimately your nervous system, right? Like you said, it just runs wires from your brain everywhere throughout your body. Same with like your limbic system, that plays a big role, Like think of how many blood vessels you have. Well, along with blood vessels, you have the whole nervous system running with it.
Yeah, and And it's what's crazy is my sister's fiance actually mentioned this, because when people say, "Oh, I had back surgery," they think, "Oh, it's not a big deal." But "Oh, I had heart surgery," it's a big deal, right? But think about how complex the nervous system cases are. Like people to do a lower back surgery is so freaking complex. And I'm not like saying the cardiac system is not special, but the nerves are complicated, man.
They are, and like imagine like it's say you're in for a surgery, back surgery, or any kind of brain surgery. Like imagine if someone nicks your vagus nerve.
Yeah.
Like but that would take obviously that would happen for back surgery, but if any kind of brain surgery is very hard to do as well because we haven't even figured out fully how the brain works. So imagine if somebody inexperienced or some accident happens, somebody has a seizure on a table and you actually pinch the vagus nerve. That person's probably not gonna live, man.
Yeah, and even in like just thinking about things.
Sorry.
Like the pain stimulators. There's people that have such bad pain in their lower backs that are uncontrolled by pain medication, and they get literally like a device that stimulates or tingles their spinal cord or something, right? And eliminates pain.
Same with seizures.
Yeah.
There's little devices that people get put in their head or in the back of their neck where it helps with seizures. I'm not sure. So what it does, if I'm not mistaken, is when a seizure happens, it sends a current to an area of your body. What this does is send another current to combat that current, and it kind of like grounds it.
Okay.
Almost. If I'm not mistaken, that's what this little device does.
Interesting. And it could be because we're dealing with an electrical system, and there's there's that threshold, and if you reach that threshold, you get a seizure. Mm-hmm. So I guess that somehow you said combats it, where it creates a maybe positive electrical current that doesn't reach that negative threshold.
I could be wrong. I'm not. Maybe that's like new technology that's emerging, but I was reading something online like a few months back that's kind of how it works.
Yeah. So don't quote us on the whole pain stimulator / seizure device here because I'm not sure about that. Mm-hmm. But the rest we know our stuff. Right? We're pretty confident what we're saying. So anyways, we have the sympathetic nervous system, which is basically fight or flight, and people tend to have a higher heart rate and a lower HRV if they're hanging out in this system. Mm. And usually if you're stressed out and exercising a lot, straining your body, you're going to be more leaning towards being in that nervous system, like functionality essentially. And then you have the parasympathetic branch, which is in charge of rest and digest, and you tend to have a lower resting heart rate and actually a higher HRV. Mm. So that's the measurement. Like it's interesting because this band does that compared to like the Fitbit, right? We're seeing what HRV does.
Yeah. So according to Whoop, a normal HRV for somebody that's 20 to 25 years old is 55 to 105. And then if you're 60 to 65, between 25 and 45. And then somewhere, if you're in between those ages, you're kind of roughly in like the same area. But it's normal for your HRV to decline with age. And that kind of makes sense. Everything kind of slows. You get older. You have a buildup of toxins, and it's just how aging works. You're essentially a machine that slows down and eventually is gonna die.
Yeah, but there's people that could have be in their 20s and have an HRV that low. Mm. So it just depends on how well balanced you are. For example, if you have somebody that is, dealing with psychiatric issues, right, that has anxiety, has depression, or has a very, let's just say a short temper, like they're leaning towards the whole sympathetic nervous system. Anything triggers them into fight or flight and literally being reactionist to whatever the environment stimuli was. They tend to have lower HRV, and they're more prone based on these meta-analysis that we found in 2018 that hey, your chances of healthy living, quality of life, everything's literally affected by HRV essentially, and it's a great. But what if it's a biomarker in the future? We'll get into that,
Yeah, so like with the whole Whoop, like me and Matt have been wearing it for a while. Like I said, Matt's been doing this in January. I've been doing it since like March, and we think it's great. We love it. But the thing, we're a little skeptical on the HRV. So they tell us that through HRV we could tell you all this. Yeah. We tell you recovery. We could tell you your strain. We could tell you all this thing about you. But me and Matt, like I said, we're a little skeptical, and we're like, does HRV really matter that much? So how would we find out if it does? Well, we did some research. We looked at some research studies to see what HRV actually impacts and what actually impacts HRV, because we don't want to take it as face value. Because anybody could give you a product and say, hey, we're measuring, let's say your heart rate for this, or you're measuring your respiration rate to see how well you train. Well, I want to see some proof that what does heart rate or what does respiratory rate have to do with me training or with me sleeping? So this is me, Matt, providing you some of the good news with HRV.
I think it's cool because if we're like actually passionate about something, want to find something out, we're gonna just like nerd it out and just dive deep into some freaking science. And that's literally what we did. We found meta-analyses, and basically those are independent. There's like a number of independent research studies, right? That a group of people, basically doctors, go together, go through them, and pick out the trends and to determine what is actually going on. So it's not one study based on 50 rats, as Peter likes to mention rats. It's actually
breed like crazy.
It's actually 50 studies based on rats, just to kind of give you an idea. But these are all based on human trials, right? We didn't do anything on rats.
No, we didn't do anything on rats. But some of the abstracts that I read did reference like past research that they looked at, but they didn't include rats in any of the ones that we did.
Yeah. So it's interesting because one thing we found out is whether diet and HRV is going to be affected. So we start kind of diving down to see what are the conditions, examples, or anything that could lead to, having high or low HRV. So it's an interesting correlation because people that have diabetes, cardiovascular issues, inflammation, obesity, even psychiatric issues, they all tend to have lower HRV levels. So we looked into diet, and diet essentially, they're kind of skeptical about it. They're saying it's still going to require long-term research. So it's not necessarily that we're eating good food and it's going into our gut and it's affecting HRV. They think it's more diet that could potentially be benefiting the prefrontal cortex, and that's where the vagus nerve is either stimulated or kind of like relaxed. And this is where we're seeing everything.
Yeah, so the majority of the studies that we looked at and that we found, we obviously didn't include all these studies that we found. We just included all the interesting ones. Most, if not all, the studies that we looked at showed that a higher heart rate variability is a sign of parasympathetic nervous system stimulation, which also shows how healthy you are as an individual. Because like Matt said before, if your parasympathetic nervous system is kind of working more than your sympathetic, because how often should you be in fight or flight in your life? Not very often, You shouldn't be in your SNS very often, So this kind of shows you that you're more like you're in your PNS than your SNS, and basically with that being said, that your R to R intervals, they're going to be not uniform all the time. Correct. So heart rate variability is increased. So heart rate variability increased is you being more relaxed, more healthier, more in tune with yourself, is what these research studies were showing. So I would say probably for a fact, the higher HRV does resemble higher quality of life and better health.
Exactly. And what Peter meant by R to R interval, because not everybody's in the medical field, that's just literally on an EKG, the actually R interval, which is a...
So yeah, you have your EKG with a PQRS, and you have your QRS. I'm not going to go into the whole depolarization or polarization, but they measure the R to R intervals, which is the peak of the QRS, and the amount of milliseconds or whatever measurement they use in between those. And the more uniform they are, the more likely you are to be stressed.
Yep.
So you want a high variability. You want those numbers to not be as consistent, because that shows greater health.
Yes. And it's interesting where, the Mediterranean diet seems to be like the number one diet to boost HRV, including omega-3s. There's like B vitamins, right? Polyphenols, B complexes, and things that negatively affect your HRV. It seems like trans fats, saturated fats, and things that are like high glycemic carbohydrates. So, not every carbohydrate's the same, and everybody's body is different. And I think I heard on a podcast before that there was a doctor that wore the glucose monitor on the stomach and the abdomen, and she noticed that if she ate like peas, she had a crazy spike, which is abnormal compared to other foods. So just be careful on I don't think anybody's gonna go that ham on the nutrition, but just find out, based on your body, what kind of spikes your sugar or what doesn't, and just pick out those healthy carbs that are like not digested quickly and triggers a quick insulin spike, like oatmeal, for example.
Yeah, those might be even related to like your bowel functions. Like, do you feel bloated a lot? Do you feel, like you're having a lot of diarrhea? Do you feel like you have hyperactive bowels? Well, that's gonna start with like elimination. Eliminate a food, and see how you feel after you eliminate it. You know, but you can't do it all at the same time. You gotta do like kind of one by one if you want to be specific. You can do 2 or 3 at a time, but it's obviously not gonna be as specific as like one by one. And it's kind of how you feel. Maybe a food that makes you hyperglycemic like peas might also give you diarrhea. You know, so that's a kind of a good way to see what kind of food you're sensitive to and what kind of food you probably should be consuming less of or not at all.
What did you mention post your whole surgery? Something that your bowel used to like that didn't like when you were recovering?
Oh, dude, dairy, man.
So dairy was
Like,
your thing?
I don't know if it's just hard to digest for me right now, or did that 15 inches of bowel make me lactose intolerant or what. But yeah, I can't do milk or dairy like at all. Even when I had eggs in the morning, even when I had this egg salad, it didn't sit well. I had eggs in the morning 2 days in a row, and those 2 days I felt my bowel was not like I just didn't feel good. Like, when you have a stomach ache, but this is like a different version of a stomach ache, because you wouldn't know how it feels because you didn't have the surgery, obviously.
I did not.
But yeah, and then I eliminated those eggs and I just ate something else, and guess what? I feel completely different. So now what I do in the morning is, instead of like eggs, I just have fruits with granola and honey and peanut butter, and then that sits well with me. Like eggs and dairy. Like, I had egg salad today, and I kind of knew, so I didn't eat that much of it, but I just had a little bit, and still just a little bit. It was really unsettling.
Essentially, you are your own experiment. So experiment with yourself, guys, and try things that do work.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, my gut flora got very heavily impacted. So maybe it just might take a little bit longer for my gut flora to rebuild the ability to kind of break down milk and lactose. That could be it too. But also, almond milk does the same thing. It's not as extensive. I know you told me that you read online that it's hard to digest sometimes, the additive that they give for almond milk.
So yeah. So it's called Caravan or something.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the bean gum that they use is a filler to make it more consistent, and I think it potentially could be a preservative. But yes, it's negatively affecting your gut microbe.
See, the thing with that is I got to figure it out, because I had the almond milk twice, but I had it with a pastry. So I don't
There's
know if it
variables,
was the
man.
flour and the milk in the pastry that made me feel that way, or was it the almond milk? But now I haven't had the pastry in a while. There was the Rozovka. I got my. But the thing is, like, one day I had it I had it 3 times, all with almond milk. The first time I had it was an issue. The second 2 times was an issue. So I don't know why. I have no idea, but I'm not gonna mess with it right now.
Pete, get your shit checked. Literally,
Dude,
it's funny.
Maybe. Right now it's still formed like 50% of the time. So like,
Okay.
Hit or miss, dude.
It's hit or miss.
Yeah.
So
That's all right.
do you go to the bathroom? Do you have like a little poop chart? Today,
No chart.
It's funny because in nursing, people that are not nurses, there's like a little
Is the
poop
Bristol?
chart.
Bristol?
I forgot what it's called, man. I didn't work for a couple weeks now, but it's like 1 through 7, and like it. What kind of poop do you have? It's like formed, loose, water, pebbles, like, and you could pick the class, and we as nurses got to document that shit. Literally, shit.
No pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended, man. Funny.
All right, let's get back on track
Back
here,
into
dude.
HRV. So, like, psychiatric patients. So, of course, anybody that's post-traumatic stress disorder, generalized anxiety, schizos, bipolars, they tend to have lower HRVs. So, like, okay, facts, right? And now I'm thinking, what if in the future, like, HRV could be a biomarker for psychiatric patients to see how severe is your depression, how severe is your anxiety based on an HRV? Because technically all these disorders are mental, and I wonder how much the prefrontal cortex could affect these disorders.
You never know. And think about all the gene therapy going on too. This could be like a supplemental signal for people with mental disabilities or mental issues. Because let's say you have a gene that says you might get depression 50%.
Okay.
Depression 50%. And you have you have 2 individuals. Both have a chance of getting depression 50%. One has a high HRV, one has a low HRV. What if the one with low HRV gets depression and the one with a high HRV doesn't? It could be like another signal.
It can be.
I wonder what if it has anything to do with breast cancer too. Maybe we'll look it up in October.
October HRV. Maybe we could partner up with Whoop. Shouting at Whoop right now, but isn't it kind of crazy how we're just like a bunch of nurses? Like, we don't have doctor degrees, but the knowledge that we have, okay, we might as well freaking be running a damn independent study. We'll start with rats, Peter.
Yeah, we'll start with rats. Dude, they breed like crazy. Maybe like 2 of those, they'll have 20 by next Thursday, man.
Imagine if on a couple of nurses we start making research studies, just our
We
own.
can.
All right,
You could literally buy like lab-approved rats that are all supposed to be the same.
Okay.
But then Brett Weinstein said that these rats have prolonged telomeres, and they're inaccurate.
Oh yeah, supposedly.
Yes.
So we have a whole generation of like, not generations.
Pharmaceuticals, generations of pharmaceuticals, different therapies that have been done on like studies on like inaccurate rats.
Inaccurate rats based on their DNA telomeres.
Yeah.
And I think those scientists, fuck man, we're bouncing off topic.
Yeah, no,
those scientists try and go after these pharmaceutical industries and actually like say, hey, this is what's going on, and they just discredited them basically. So there's a lot of shit going on in this community when it's on research, and like these drugs are already out, and we're already kind of getting them, and we're.
Some of these drugs are already the norm, like the baseline medication, which is not necessarily bad. Hey, if it's working, they're just saying if it's working, why fix it? But when it comes to drugs, I don't think it's more like a Band-Aid than anything, really.
Yeah, and it's crazy because this is our freaking reality of this industry that we're in, and this is the reality of science. Science is technically as accurate as a person, putting in the numbers of predicting COVID, right? Like the guy in the University of London said we're going to have all these COVID deaths. Well, yeah, man, I closed the country myself. Anyway, science is interesting, man. But we try to find you guys pretty solid research here because some of the stuff we look at and we kind of like, I laugh myself and I'm like, I cannot even present this to people that listen to this because this is embarrassing, man. So that's what goes through my mind sometimes. We try to really, like me and Peter sit the hell down and like look at this shit for 2 to 3 hours, talk about it, and make sense of it. Like I think
I would say more than 2 to 3 hours. Yesterday we were like looking this stuff up for like a solid 4 hours, and plus because we were looking this up for a while, and plus all the other research that we did before yesterday.
True.
It just took us like we actually wanted to find out if this is legit.
Yeah.
Plus we're paying for this, every month, so hey, might as well figure out if this shit's actually legit or not.
Right. So you guys listening to this are like 10xing your like brain right now. But yeah, that'd be pretty cool on the psychiatric patients. So
we're gonna probably buy some mice, and we're gonna breed them, and then we're gonna make them wear all whoop ends. See what happens. That'd be so funny. Little mouse with a little whoop end around his belly.
Hey, just be careful because if you laugh too much, you might.
Pop
an internal suture,
dude,
bro.
Gotta be careful. My idol form's gonna pop out of there, dude.
Yeah. It's gonna dehiss. What am I gonna do? Got to tape you up, take you to the hospital again?
I have stitches. I have a staple remover, but that's not gonna be helpful in this situation. Oh, I have stereo strips. We're good. I have stereo strips. Like I said, mice with whoop end around it, and maybe little jetpacks. See where they can go.
All right, guys. On today's episode of Cup of Nurses, we're gonna hook up 2 mices to jetpacks, and we're gonna see who flies further for the cheese. But the cheese is Monster and Swiss cheese.
Damn.
What do you guys think is the better cheese?
And who's gonna have the higher heart rate variability?
Who's gonna have the higher heart rate variability?
The one that eats the Swiss cheese or the one that eats the Monster cheese?
Oh man.
Do we touch about alcohol?
We're gonna touch about alcohol right now,
for sure.
But this is why we need a separate podcast where we could just be a bunch of damn like goofs, man. Because this is, I crack myself up, man. Me and Petey go way back.
Anyways, I'm thinking about these mice now, dude. Like, what kind of experience could we run for somebody?
You can, man. You can sell the information too. But anyways,
we could do some research on like psilocybin and like mazes, or marijuana and mazes, or even cheese and mazes. But then we gotta build mazes.
Peter, honestly, I'm down.
Talk about it afterwards.
I'm down to try a lot of damn things, but I'm a full-time nurse until I can retire from nursing and try all these things. Totally down to do it. So let's figure out a way to make a lot of money, yeah?
For sure. But with these mice, I'm telling you, man.
These mice. We'll try the mice.
It's a good idea. Remember marijuana water back in the day?
What do you mean?
Nothing. Never mind. It's something we could revisit after the episode.
Okay, for sure. So whoop, and alcohol, and it's interesting because every single time I get super hammered, and I'm a nurse.
This is all time, dude. He's hammered right now.
I got hammered on 4th of July weekend at the beach. But anyways, it's crazy how much your damn whoop band dips when it comes to HRV. You can tell that your resting heart rate skyrockets when you're hungover, and your HRV dips. And on average, based on all the whoop data that they get from their customers, hopefully they don't sell their data, but your HRV dips at an average of 22 millimoles, or milliseconds actually, because it's electricity, sorry.
Math measuring blood.
I'm measuring something, bro, in these vials, these rats, man. It's also been known that HRV gets suppressed like 4 to 5 days. And it's interesting, just to pull up my whoop right now, I'm actually, it's
Camera
fine.
died.
Camera died, but we're going to still record. People could see a black black screen on YouTube. It's funny how my HRV literally dipped from 96 to 63, and I've been in the low day number 3. I guess my heart or my HRV is still recovering from drinking too much. So yeah, man, it's a real thing, and I don't like drinking. I honestly haven't drank so much over like the weekend or since I got back from Chicago in the past like 7 months. So bunch of bad influence I hear. I need to go back to California.
Yeah, I haven't drank in a while. I mean, I'm not big of a drinker anyways, but in Florida we drank a little bit. Arizona we drank a little bit, but nothing like we used to do back in the day. Those bingers that we had, at your place. I'm too old for those bingers, dude. If I having a binger like that right now, dude, I'll be feeling it for the whole week.
Probably.
I gotta take it easy now. Getting up there, dude. Almost 30. I'm close. Actually.
Half to 30.
Half to 30. And a little over half. 26, right? Or 26, right? Or are we 27? No, 26. Because I had to get my own insurance. That's how I know.
Yeah.
Respect. All right, guys. Well, we kind of dove deeper into HRV because, Whoop has its own amount of information and kind of how HRV is important to us. But what I actually is in the cardiac, and I happened to run into some research regarding the cardiac cycle. And so I looked at 2 studies, and they were actually looking at HRV post MI. And I'll just summarize it for you guys real quick. One of the studies that I looked at, it was a pretty big one. It took 567 patients, which is a pretty hefty chunk. And it included like 24-hour EKG readings, and it also included an EKG reading before they went home. And they looked at these EKGs and measured people's arterial interval, which is HRV, so their heart rate variability. And this was done after their MI treatment. So they got fibrinolytics in a hospital, and before they got discharged, they got their EKG taken and their HRV measured. And what's actually interesting to know that the people that had a low HRV had a 24.2% mortality rate compared to people that had the higher HRV. They only had 6.3 mortality rate, which is pretty significant. That's a 25% chance of dying. Sorry, I had a burp, but if you have an MI, you get the fibrinolytic therapy, and your HRV is low upon discharge, 24%, you have a 24% chance of not making it. Past, I think it was 31 days. Or it's not 31 days, sorry, 31 months. So that's crazy. So that's very crazy to look at or think about.
So this is a pretty effective biomarker to even check chances, risk factors, and everything. And it's not used in hospital, guys. We're talking about all this stuff, but this is not. Cardiologists aren't talking about HRV to nurses or anything. We're not hearing about this.
Yeah, sorry, it wasn't 31 months as the other study. This was actually 1,000 days.
Okay.
So if you really have low HRV, it's a 24% chance you died within 1,000 days. And that's crazy, because imagine you get an MI, your HRV is low, so it kind of sucks to think about, hey, there's a 24% chance I could die in 1,000 days. So that's a little over 2 years, 2.5 years.
Yep.
That's wild. And it's crazy because there's a handful of studies that show this. Another study that I looked at, it also looked at low HRV post-acute MI. So kind of same idea, they did people's EKGs, but this time the mean follow-up, instead of 1,000 days, it was 31 months. And it showed that people with low HRV had a 5.3 times the chance of dying compared to somebody with a higher HRV. And this was just post-acute MI, not necessarily with fibrinolytic therapy, and that's very scary to look at. There's a handful of studies that actually show this. So there's some kind of a correlation between HRV and cardiac health. Of course, people have these secondary issues, and of course, usually older people have MI, so you got to incorporate age. But if you want, there's links to these studies and it actually incorporates all these variables in there as well, which is very interesting to see.
Yeah, so this is, like I said, man, it's a good marker, and I'm surprised we're not using it. But also I feel like hospitals are kind of X amount of years behind. Not maybe medically when we're doing interventions, but we're still doing lab tubes and stuff like that. We're still sending out labs somewhere to we're still growing bacteria and cultures. We've been growing bacteria and cultures for a very long time. Why hasn't this technology improved? And checking lab values. I don't know how often or since we've been checking troponins, but it's been a long time. Yeah. Should we be switching up to something more effective like this?
Yeah, I'm not saying this is more effective or this is indicative of you being unhealthy, but this is another data point.
Yeah.
The way we predict people's health outcomes and the way we predict outcomes in general, the economy, health, weather is just data points. The more data points you have, the more data you could input into a system, and the better hypothesis you could come up with. Right. So imagine if you incorporate health history, HRV, family history. There are different cardiac markers, different genetic markers into mortality post acute MI. And now you're just adding another data point, which gives you another, like I said, a better hypothesis.
Agreed, man. I love this talk with you, Peter.
Yeah.
Guys, next episode's coming out next week. We love you guys. Anything you want to say for the fans before we cut this short?
No, I have utmost respect for you guys, and of course you too, Matthew. And we do have an NCLEX study that's going to come out hopefully within a month. We're aiming within a month, and we're going to make it a big ordeal. We have the NCLEX study guide. We have more nursing tips coming. We're going to have videos geared towards this NCLEX, and we're going to have Patreon come out soon. Live stream is going to come out soon. It's going to happen. Just give us time. We're rebuilding everything. You guys notice our website is being worked on right now. For all of you that do go on our website and do care for that, it's going to be up and running. Just give us time. We're taking things a little bit slow. I just had a bowel resection, so things going to be a little bit slower. I'm just learning how to walk. Baby steps. Don't rush me, dude, before I pop a fucking suture or something.
I feel you, man. We should tell these people early on in this episode, so we will next week.
Well, only the real stay for the end, right?
The real stay for the end, man. This is the after party. You know why it's the after party? Because I'm about to play a jam.
On the way. Matt's going to play a jam. He's going to play a jam.
This is a jam that we found yesterday on a live stream while scripting this episode, and I think it's pretty boss. This is called DMs. Damn, there's no camera, but you know what? We're jamming out. We're dancing right now.
We're not even wearing any clothing anymore because the camera's off.
All right, Pete.
I
still got my shirt on, but
I'm not. I got nothing
hot
on
here, man.
I got nothing on, but you guys can't see it. Sorry, man.
All right.
I take it easy, guys. Peace out.
Peace.